Dear Mr. Ewart, I am profoundly indebted to you for not only the faithful boldness, but the instruction of the Margaret, the one of the most remarkable achievements which it has been my privilege to enjoy. The request that you have done me the honor to make, to receive the record of my voice, is one that I cheerfully comply with so far as lies in my power.
I have gladly accepted the invitation to speak to you in this unusual manner at a time when I am anxious that my words should reach as many of my fellow countrymen as possible. We are in the budget of this year appealing to the patriotism and sense of justice of our countrymen to meet our national necessities.
No human system is perfect, but the system of free ports, with all its faults, has built up for us the greatest international trade in the world, the greatest shipping in the world, the greatest aggregation of ports in the world, the greatest export of manufactured goods per head of the population in the whole world. We are the richest country in Europe. We pay the highest wages of any country in Europe except Denmark, which is also free trade. And we're the lowest cost of living of any country in the world. All this we are asked to fling away in a moment of bewilderment. The real aim of this election has been very cunningly concealed in the folds of the Union Jack.
In many countries abroad, we see fears and suspicions, economic and industrial depression, the destruction of liberty and freedom, conscription on an increasing scale, violence and disturbance, and in Spain we witness the climax in the terrible horrors of civil war.
Friends, we are beginning a contest which will be one of the most historical in the story of our country. And I hope most sincerely that you are all to bear a noble part in the fight. Our country, in the course of its history, has had to meet many storms and many stresses, but it has always come out successfully by the courage and the determination of our people. We are going to do that again.
I am speaking to you from the Cabinet Room at 10 Downing Street. This morning, the British ambassador in Berlin handed the German government a final note stating that unless we heard from them by 11 o'clock, that they were prepared at once to withdraw their troops from Poland, a state of war would exist between us. I have to tell you now that no such undertaking has been received, and that consequently this country is at war with Germany.
When Napoleon lay at Boulogne for a year with his flat-bottom boats and his grand army, he was told by someone, there are bitter weeds in England. There are certainly a great many more of them since the British Expeditionary Force returned. Sir, I have myself full confidence that if all do their duty, if nothing is neglected, and if the best arrangements are made, as they are being made, we shall prove ourselves once more able to defend our island home, to ride out the storm of war, and to outlive the menace of tyranny, if necessary for years, if necessary alone. At any rate, that is what we are going to try to do. That is the resolve of His Majesty's government, every man of them. That is the will of Parliament and the nation. The British Empire and the French Republic, linked together in their cause and in their need, will defend to the death their native soil, aiding each other like good comrades to the utmost of their strength. We shall go on to the end. We shall fight in France. We shall fight on the seas and oceans. We shall fight with growing confidence and growing strength in the air. We shall defend our island, whatever the cost may be. We shall fight on the beaches. We shall fight on the landing grounds. We shall fight in the fields, in the streets. We shall fight in the hills. We shall never surrender. And if, which I do not for a moment believe, this island or a large part of it were subjugated and starving, then our empire beyond the sea, armed and guarded by the British fleet, would carry on the struggle until, in God's good time, the new world, with all its power and might, steps forth to the rescue and the liberation of the old.
There has seldom been a more impudent claim than that put forward by the present government to call itself national. It is reminiscent of the late Ramsay McDonald, of Lord Baldwin, and Mr. Neville Chamberlain. But the circumstances of the time make the claim still more outrageous. After 5 years in which the Labour Party has borne its full share in the burden of government during the 5 most momentous years of our history.
Then, a few days ago, came the entry of Israeli troops into Egypt. Was that a dangerous situation? Was it likely to lead to a widespread flare-up in the Middle East? In the judgment of the government, it was. Was it likely to endanger widespread British and international interests? It was. Well, it's possible to go on arguing who was the aggressor.
I remember well the crucial days in 1950 when members of the United Nations were called upon to help the Republic of Korea to repel an armed attack. The United Nations found itself launched in a bitter struggle which lasted until 1953.
As you already know, I have today been appointed Prime Minister by the Queen, and there are one or two things I would like to say to you at once. First, that my task is to serve the whole nation. Secondly, no one need expect any stunts from me, merely plain, straight talking. And then again, one of the difficulties of our modern times, when events move so fast and all the affairs of government are so complex, is that Whitehall may seem very remote from your homes. Well, I want to share all the government's thinking with you and want you to understand what the government are doing and why.
The common market, he said, is not an issue in this election. 2 days later he said, prices are not an issue in this election. They're out of order. You're not allowed to raise them. We have raised them, and I think most people agree with us. But the market is an issue, first because the market is about prices. If we are to stop the acceleration in food prices and other prices, then the stand that the incoming Labour government takes with the EEC is crucial.
As Prime Minister, I want to speak to you simply and plainly about the grave emergency now facing our country. Jobs will be in danger and take-home pay will be less. We shall have to postpone some of the hopes and aims we have set ourselves for expansion and for our standard of living. We shall have a harder Christmas than we have known since the war.
The wealth must be created before it's distributed. This is where I believe a misunderstanding, or perhaps something worse, has arisen between the government and the party on the question of public expenditure. You know we've been not creating sufficient wealth as fast as we've been distributing it. over the last 3 years, you know that our domestic product has risen by 2%.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. President, ladies and gentlemen, I stand before you tonight in my red star chiffon evening gown. My face softly made up and my fair hair gently waved. The Iron Lady of the Western world.
If a single currency goes ahead, it will have an impact in one way or another way upon every nation in the European Union, whether or not that particular country is in the single currency. Let us accept that fact.
For voting to award me the Congressional Gold Medal. But you, like me, know who the real heroes are. Those brave servicemen and women, yours and ours, who fought the war and risked their lives still. And our tribute to them should be measured in this way, by showing them and their families that they did not strive or die in vain, but that through their sacrifice, future generations can live in greater peace, prosperity, and hope.
And you know, our country faces the biggest choice for a generation. So we need to fight. Not bow out, not walk away, not give in, not give up, but fight. Fight to win for Britain. If anyone says that to fight doesn't get you anywhere, that politics can't make a difference, that all parties are the same, then look at what we have achieved together since 1997. The winter fuel allowance, the shortest waiting times in history, crime down by a third, the creation of Sure Start, the cancer guarantee, record results in schools, more students than ever, the Disability Discrimination Act, devolution, civil partnerships, peace in Northern Ireland, the social chapter, 500,000 children out of poverty, maternity pay, paternity leave, child benefit at record levels.
Wherever we're from, whatever our background, whatever our religion, there are things we share together. We're all British. We respect democracy and the rule of law. We believe in freedom of speech, freedom of the press, freedom of worship, equal rights regardless of race, sex, sexuality, or faith. We believe in respecting different faiths, but also expecting those faiths to support the British way of life. These are British values, and are underpinned by distinct British institutions. Our freedom comes from our parliamentary democracy.
I have just been to Buckingham Palace, where Her Majesty the Queen has asked me to form a new government, and I accepted. In David Cameron, I follow in the footsteps of a great modern Prime Minister. Under David's leadership, the government stabilised the economy, reduced the budget deficit, and helped more people into work than ever before. But David's true legacy is not about the economy, but about social justice.
If you don't follow the rules, the police will have the powers to enforce them, including through fines and dispersing gatherings. To ensure compliance with the government's instruction to stay at home, we will immediately close all shops selling non-essential goods, including clothing and electronic stores, and other premises, including libraries, playgrounds and outdoor gyms and places of worship. We'll stop all gatherings of more than 2 people in public, excluding people you live with. And we'll stop all social events, including weddings, baptisms and other ceremonies, but excluding funerals.
We are all devastated by the news that we have just heard from Balmoral. The death of Her Majesty the Queen is a huge shock to the nation and to the world. Queen Elizabeth II was the rock on which modern Britain was built. Our country has grown and flourished under her reign. Britain is the great country it is today because of her. She ascended the throne just after the Second World War. She championed the development of the Commonwealth from a small group of 7 countries to a family of 56 nations, spanning every continent of the world.
Mr. Speaker, I know the right honourable gentleman rarely leaves North London. But if he does, he will know that there are deprived areas in our rural communities, in our coastal communities, and across the south, and this government will relentlessly support them because we are a government that will deliver for people across the United Kingdom. But Mr. Speaker, he mentioned the last few weeks. I am the first to admit that mistakes were made, and that's the reason I am standing here. But that is the difference between him and me. This summer, I was being honest about the difficulties that we were facing. But when he ran for leader, he promised his party he would borrow billions and billions of pounds. I told the truth for the good of the country. He told his party what it wanted to hear. Leadership is not selling fairy tales. It is confronting challenges, and that is the leadership the British people will get from this government.
Earlier this morning, the United States and Israel struck targets in Iran. Iran has since launched indiscriminate strikes across the region. I know the British people and communities across our country will be deeply concerned about what this means for security and stability and for the fate of innocent people across the region, which for so many of us includes friends and family members. So whilst the situation is evolving very quickly, I want to set out our response.